So I know what you must be thinking. You must be thinking that this nigga crazy. And guess what? I am. Because I'm about to dive in on an issue that for years even I believed in. I believed in it because there was no proof to show me otherwise. Shit, it didn't help none that we all are raised in a system that doesn't really allow us to be anything that is profitable for a long period of time. Look at Jonathan Major right now. His career is basically destroyed. If you look at him, he looks like he's dying. You know, our history, let me say this. As a nation, we were always put under scrutiny. We were always, the scapegoat. Nothing we did were seen from the same review as if somebody else who was not our kind did it. So because of this, we had to develop a system. And the system was that you cannot trust the white man's system. Because the system has screwed us time and time over. What made it worse is that nobody believed us. We were the scapegoat. We still are in a many shape or form. So what happened when you constantly cry wolf and no one believes you? Well, you start developing a false sense of righteousness. So I'm right, you wrong. I know I'm right, and everything you're about to say is just a tactic to gaslight me into believing that I'm wrong. And because of this, we started being too woke to the point that we became dumb. And what's sad, and I've already said it, is that because the system is built a certain way, where we are the ones that are gonna most likely pay for things that everybody else is doing. Because you have us as a scapegoat when it comes to every situation, we are the one that can take the bullet. We are the one that can get arrested. We are the one that, when it comes to being successful, we're not allowed no mistake. We can't fail. If we fail, it's at that time that you realize that no one ever liked you. And this is not just other races doing this to us. We do this to each other. The moment we fail, you are a loser all along. So think about this. You got a systematic problem. You got a society problem. And then now you got us being paranoid. All of this brought us to this conclusion that Hollywood is trying to kill us in their movies. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. If every time an actor appeared on set and then his character died on screen, but then he was never seen again, like nobody, his family, no friends ever got to see him again, then we could start with this conspiracy that Hollywood just like killing us in their movies. You want to know why black characters always die in white people movies? I'll tell you. But I want you to have an understanding of American cinema and how it started to begin with, how actors came to be. See, if we travel back in time, there used to be this motherfucker named Fool. That was his job. He was a fool. His job was to entertain, queens and kings. He would do this job by mocking, impersonating stereotypes. What was considered funny, because he was like the original stand-up comedian. His job was to entertain queens and kings through the form of mocking. Fast forward to theater, where people could now have storylines and dialogues, Shakespeare and all that shit. Now, you could have what is considered an actor or actor, right? But guess what? It wasn't progressive. They didn't have, in the beginning, they didn't have women acting on stage. They had white men. portraying characters, basically stereotypes of characters. So white men could play a man, a woman, and once they started doing that, they could portray whatever stereotype they wanted to. It didn't matter. Whatever story that they wanted to tell, they could use stereotypes to tell it and be the hero of that story. When that came to pass, and then now they started allowing women. By the way, I want you to remember this. White men played both genders in theater. This is something that is gonna come back later because I want to talk about another thing in this conversation right here. So fast forward to them needing to be a bit more progressive. They started hiring women to play the women part instead of just having men play those parts. You know? So these women were white. Of course they were white. Because who else was gonna play the hero of their story? Because theater was like a form of entertainment for white folks. We had music, they had acting. Acting was not our forte. This is not something we focused on. We were already living a troublesome life. We didn't need that kind of, like, actors were like, acting back in the day was a lot more focused on drama. And I ain't gonna lie, it's still happening to this day in Hollywood. There's a lot more drama happening in Hollywood films than there is comedy. We focus a lot more on drama when it comes to music. So white folks made themselves heroes in their stuff. But if they needed a little bit of diversity in their story, guess what? They still could do those roles themselves. Hence, blackface. Oh yeah, you'd be lying to yourself if you thought blackface was an invention when Hollywood started being a thing. It's been a thing long before that. It started in theater. It started in theater, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I can't be for sure what kind of backlash they got from this because it was fair game. It seems like it was fair game. No one was really criticizing it, or no one was woke enough to, appreciate how fucked up it was. So let's fast forward to when the movie industry started. The movie industry started, first of all, with those small clips, like a train would pass in front of the screen, or if you see Nope, you saw this black man, or if he was black or wasn't, I don't know. I'm not going to waste my time actually figuring out if that part was true or not. That black man who was riding a horse in Nope, that's real. Those were clips. Sadly, for theater actors, they were not giving roles in those clips because it was based on emotion and it was silent. There was no dialogue being said in those clips. It was all silent with a little bit of caption here and there when they realized they could profit of, motion capture, because that's what cinema is. That's what films are. They are motion captures. They capture motion. There was no dialogue needed to be said. That was not the focus. But then when they realized they could profit of whatever this was, they started hiring actors. And who were those actors? They were white. And because human only progress so they could digress, they were white men. Remember that in theater that they struggled to have women play certain roles? That only men could play those roles? Where they were about to do the same thing again. Progress so they could digress. So white men were hired in those clips. The beginning of cinema started with white men. Now, fast forward to a couple of years, or I don't know how long, they started including women. But they were white women. And guess what? After years of creating stories that were shaped around white women and white men, they were like, you know what? Let's do the progressive thing again, and started hiring diversity. But guess what? They were white people doing blackface, Asian face, brown face. Here you go. Diversity. Luckily or unluckily for them, luckily for us, but unluckily for them, they started getting backlash because you had wokeism happening among white folks who weren't living by that rule anymore or didn't want to live by that rule anymore. So you had them Sidney Poitier or that black lady who was in Gone with the Wind. But these characters in the beginning, they were like what they call the magical Negroes. Characters that show up, they were support characters. They would just be there for a little bit, and they were just in support of the main character who was white. Those are the roles we got in the beginning. Now, fast forward to the main course event, which is horror movies. Yes, we started getting roles in horror movies. And guess what? Because white people or society only progress to digress, that thing that we thought was like progress, that Sidney Poitier, all those other great actors that thought that Hollywood was making change, or we could be on set for a good amount of time and not be, racist to each other or not have issues with each other. That shit came to pass. And then you would have movies not of the Living Dead with Dwayne Jones where he died at the end of the movie. No. You would have black people being given disposable characters in horror movies. Or basically any movies that if they couldn't have him just be there for a split second and disappear and never see him in the movie again, they would give us characters who are about to die. So we were giving disposable characters, ladies and gentlemen. But what's funny about this, and that's when the paranoia came to be an issue, is that we assume that we were the only people that they were willing to give these characters to. That wasn't true. There's a lot of white folks who are giving disposable characters. It's just for some reason, when they give it to us, we started assuming that they just like killing us in their movies, which isn't true. So once they couldn't profit or they stopped doing the magical Negro, they gave us disposable characters who would die. It didn't help none that we were dying in the streets. Now we were dying in movies. We needed a break, but we were not going to get that until we started making our own movies, which, came to fruition when black exploitation happened. We started making our own shit. We started making our own content for ourselves. Black exploitation was the answer. Not talking to white folks, try to make them do things for us. Nah, we made our own. We were the hero of our own story. Not white folks, us. Sadly, our thing was not as profitable as white folks. It wasn't. We tried, and we still trying. It just wasn't as it just isn't as profitable when we do it than when white people do it. So we always find ourselves going back to them when it comes to, jobs in Hollywood. And I think this is when things got even funnier, because now we got a different issue, a different type of paranoia. And it's that gay agenda thing that we're always talking about. And I ain't gonna dispute this because I just ain't got no time. But I'll dive into one thing. White people don't like to see you wearing dresses, women dresses, because you're black. It's just white people find it to be funny. White people have been doing this for years now. When they started in theater. Remember when I said that this would have come back? Back then, it was still funny. It was a bit funny to watch a dude basically kiss another dude on stage. That never stopped. They were not so progressive. So they were like, you know what? Let's have that same thing happen in movies. How many white men wore women's clothes in a form of comedy? Actually, I want you to understand this. White people have two different ways they could have a person, a white man, or well, most likely white man, wear a dress. It's either it's funny, it's comical, like you would watch Miss Doubtfire or the other movie that Dustin Hoffman made back in the day. Movies like this, comedy. It's considered funny for a man to cross dress. It's always been considered funny. And if it's not considered funny, it's terrifying. Like movies like Psycho with Norman Bates, when he's revealed to be the mother at the end of the movie because the mother's been dead all along. Or there was that other movie that maybe you don't know anything about. There's countless movies like Ace Ventura where, like, because it's not just cross-dressing that is considered funny in Hollywood, it's also trends. A lot of trans stories always involve a man who is somewhat of a serial killer. Always turns out that, oh my God, he's a dude and he's killing people. That's another thing in Hollywood that's been happening, and maybe in recent years that has stopped. And it's not like, I'm not gonna lie and say like there was some kind of like base in reality, because you did have some psychopaths that like to wear women clothes and then they like to murder people. Like Silence of the Lamb is not like the like, this was not a myth. Like, oh, you had a man who was putting women's, you know, makeup and wearing women's clothes and he was like murdering people left and right, taking their skin for ransom. No. This actually happened, but it was still a stereotype because they made it happen so often in their movies. So either men wearing clothes were like mocked as a joke, or they were serial killers. So now you had black people who wanted roles in Hollywood who was like, okay, so you got a lot of white folks who is trying to deviate from playing these roles all the time. Let's have you play it. So you had Martin Lawrence playing Big Mama. What, you didn't like that movie? Because I do. You didn't like Big Mama? How about Tyler Perry? So while you think it's not a, how you like to say it, ritual, some kind of initiation in Hollywood because Tyler Perry pays himself to do it, it's funny when Tyler Perry does it, but it's not funny when other actors have to do it because it's considered hilarious. What was that in Living Color episode where Jamie Foxx introduced himself as this character that was so ugly, and you could see, you know that it was him wearing a woman's clothes? Like, what? This was wrong? This wasn't funny? And that's what I'm talking about. There is a level of paranoia. There's a level of this isn't real, but you want to believe in it because at this point, man, we are fucked mentally. We don't know what is real and what is not real anymore. It takes a whole lot to escape from that institutionalized mindset where, oh, everyone is out to get us. There are situations where we just a scapegoat. That's facts. We are the scapegoat. Whatever happens, you know, whatever we do, when we do it, there is always a double standard associated to it, to us. There are things that white people cannot get away with too. But we don't ever focus on that because at the end of the day, they still win. It's really hard to escape that mindset because all we got is struggle. It's not until Jordan Peele, well, not Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele is not like the first one that made a lot of black heroes. Like, I've seen a lot of great black heroes. I was raised with, you know, Meteor Man and Blade and I don't know, man, like even like Kevin Hart being able to buy a whole plane and Soul Plane, like stories like this, Pursuit of Happiness, you've had, you know, successful black men portrayed in movies. But the reality is this, man, and we focus on the wrong thing. White people make their movies for them. They don't make it for you. It's because they try to be progressive sometimes that they try to create this world where you can be part of it. But they don't have to. They're not trying to do all the stuff that you think they try to do. What they try to do is like they try to make themselves the hero of their own stories. And like stories like, how many times you see a movie where a white man can date any race in their movies? This doesn't happen in black cinema because we have a fear of that going on. Either because black women are gonna badmouth the shit out of us, or it's because we just, society does not allow us to be the hero in our stories. How many slave movies have we made? How many police brutality movies have we made? We need to change. We need to change that. Do it like white people do it. Because white people were not like good guys to every race. They started spreading that bullshit. Like cowboys movies used to be, like cowboys used to be black until white people had a hand on it. Now, everyone thinks that cowboys are white. It's a white people thing, but it's not. They made themselves the hero of their own story through lies, through movies, through theater. We needed to do the same thing, but every time black people made a film, it was always about the struggle. You can't want white people to help you, man. We have to help each other. And every time we go to make white people movies, I'm sorry, I don't like to say it like that because I still like those movies. I still like movies that white people make. I still want it. I'm an artist. I would want to be part of a Inception or whatever great movies like Batman, Spider-Man. So I'm not speaking, based off that. I'm not, this is not some racist rant. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, if we really want to make change, stop asking them to do it. We can do it ourselves. We can. I mean, black exploitation failed, first of all, because black people didn't support it. It's not like we were bootlegging it, like we would show up, but it would be like we sneaking into the film or whatever the issue was. I'm not gonna lie, systematic, there are versions of that happened, like where white folks didn't support the theater that we were in. They were not funded. Yes, sure. But what was that guy, Rudy Ray Moore, if I'm saying his name correctly? His movies were successful because the white people showed up for his movies. They showed up. It was like Tyler Perry. They were showing up for his movies. So black exploitation could have survived if people supported it. Stop asking white people to make change or, well, don't give us these roles. They don't owe you that, man. They don't owe even white people that. How many roles have white people, taken in the industry that they were not satisfied with? So what, we're going to run away from that reality? That there are white folks right now that hate the roles that they played? Come on, man. So here's a summary for you. White people write stereotypes in anything that they create because they don't know how to bond with every other race or every other gender or whatever it is. They don't have the energy. They'll try to create something that has enough integrity, especially nowadays. They can't have a trans man always killing people in movies. They can't have that no more. Like Ace Ventura had a character that was trans that murdered, a couple of people in the movie. And it almost got Jim Carrey some backlash because of it. And now you definitely cannot have black people play thugs. So Hollywood need to be a bit progressive. And you've seen this. You've seen a lot of woke films being taken place in Hollywood, and a lot of them are not so good. Even like us, we look at it, we're like, come on, man. We don't want to be watching that. That's too much. But you asked for it. You asked for wokeism in cinema. So you getting a version of that. The only version that they know how to do. So, you know what? There's another thing I need to talk about. Yeah, there's another thing I need to talk about. And I hope you're ready, because that's the last thing I'm about to say right now. You ready? There is no God, and there is no Satan in Hollywood. Everything that is happening in Hollywood is just on no crazy shit. There are people who are definitely killing people in Hollywood, but it's not for the reason that you think. Now, have a good night. Thank you.